Prior to recording this video, I almost puked in my mouth because these 5 quarterbacks I will never draft again. And in fact, they should all be ashamed of themselves and should never show their face in the NFL. In fact, I don't even think the CFL should even accept these guys once they get kicked off their team. So 5, I count them 5 quarterbacks you need to avoid for fantasy football 2025. And the last one, man, oh man, does this guy suck. And he has no business being in the NFL. Welcome back to the SUV rants here. Get ready to pick up my kids from school out in the Northeast. It is cold here. I was excited. Listen, I was excited about these games, but some of these games didn't turn out the way that I thought they would. I thought the Steelers would have put up a better fight. That didn't happen. Packers, didn't put up a fight as well. We'll talk about the quarterbacks in these situations. And Chargers, what a big letdown as well. It was a wild week. Wild card week was wild, I'll tell you that. So I enjoyed the games. I think the divisional round is going to get a lot more fun. But anyway, either way, if you love fantasy football, if you love talking sports, if you love the truth to sports, hit the thumbs up, smash or tap it, slap it, and drop a comment below. Let me know about a quarterback that you'll never, ever touch again and has no business being in the NFL. And literally, as we get into some context here, before I get into like these quarterbacks, these 5 quarterbacks, there's not a lot of good quarterbacks in the NFL. Literally, it's like, especially for fantasy, literally, it's like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Burrow had a good season, Hurts is good, right? It's only a handful of guys. After that, it's a huge fall off. Quarterbacks now become the tight ends. And you got that rushing upside, right? Jaden Daniels, amazing. There's a bright future there. I'm so proud of that guy. And he ended up praising the Lord Jesus after that win. Amazing, amazing stuff. So Jaden Daniels, I love him. And he is like, he's everything a team wants. So the Commanders should be absolutely blessed to have that guy. I mean, he's a complete package. So we'll talk about that. And that's how you should be playing as a quarterback. And that was his first run at the playoffs and in the league for the first time as a rookie. And he's playing good. Like, he's winning and he's fighting for yards and he's finding open receivers and he's just doing it all, right? He's using his feet when he needs to. So good vision downfield. Jaden Daniels, I got to see where he's going to be unfortunately, he's going to be a top quarterback next year. We're going to have to pay for him, but I love the talent, okay? But there's only a handful of quarterbacks that are really good. So let's talk about these 5. Again, drop a comment, drop your name below on which quarterback you're never touching again. So I'm going to give you guys 5 quarterbacks I'm never touching again. Do not draft. Garbage. They could have better years next year, but at this point, the way they played two of these guys here in the playoffs, just disgusting. So let's go to the first guy. Let's dive in right into the first guy, is Jordan Love. Now, in regards to fantasy for 2024, he finished 17th. Now, this guy was primed to have a good year. Now, you could say that his receivers are banged up in the playoffs. I want to specifically talk about that playoff game. I know it wasn't fantasy relevant, but 3.5 fantasy points if it was fantasy relevant. 3 interceptions, 0 touchdowns, 41.5 passer rating. Guys, that is absolutely disgusting. Now, his touchdown to interception ratio on the year is 25-11. Not terrible. I'd like to see the touchdowns come up. And 3,389 passing yards. You need to be cracking 4,000 passing yards, okay? Again, 233.9 fantasy points. To put it into context, 233.9 fantasy points. Lamar Jackson was 430. Josh Allen was 379. So 233 fantasy points doesn't cut it. That's why I finished 17th in fantasy points. But the way that he played in that playoff game is absolutely disgusting. Again, you can make the argument that Watson was banged up and out, and Jayden Reed got hurt, and then Romeo Doubs went out. And I understand he had no receivers and stuff like that, but he still played like garbage. Like, there's no excuse to throw 3 interceptions in one game when it mattered the most and throw for 0 touchdowns. I mean, you have good tight ends, you got other options, you got a decent running back in Josh Jacobs. It doesn't make any sense why you would play that bad. So I got to just say here, I'm just not happy with the way Jordan Love played. And it's enough of a turnoff for me to avoid him in fantasy in general for next year. Because when push comes to shove, right? This could be your fantasy football championships. He's going to go out there and throw 3 donuts. Literally unacceptable, man. This guy's career's done. He should be working at McDonald's, okay? Next guy, I told you not to draft this guy this season, is Anthony Richardson. Now, Anthony Richardson just can't stay healthy. Now, I was hearing rumblings that the Colts are going to bring in competition, whether they're going to draft somebody or whether they're going to bring someone of value and they could start over Richardson. That's a smart idea because the guy just can't stay healthy, okay? He played 11 games, finished 25th amongst quarterbacks. And I told you, do not draft this guy. He had only played 4 games prior to the season. So in 2023, 4 games, and I think he only finished 3 out of those 4 games. I think the 4th game he was hurt. So we only saw a sample size of him, and it wasn't good, right? So we saw the rushing upside, but that was it. And he was ranked top 5 amongst the Conships. I'm like, don't draft this guy, right? He's not proven. When you look at a quarterback, and I explained this in 16 rounds. By the way, you can pre-order 16 rounds. I'll put a link below. You can pre-order right now. You get in, but the content isn't coming out till the first week of May. Now I'm going to do an intro video and all that, but you can get 16 rounds right now. You can pre-order it below. But in 16 rounds, I lay it out. I'm like, don't draft this guy. You need a quarterback that's going to be anchored to your team. That's why I was telling everybody to avoid the Debo Samuels of the world in the 3rd round and get yourself Josh Allen, who was a perfect 3rd round pick. So that's another topic. But Anthony Richardson finished again 25th, 8 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, absolutely disgusting, 61.6 passer rating. And to put it in context, a passer rating like Lamar Jackson, 119. That's like half of Lamar Jackson in regards to passer rating. So absolutely disgusting here for Anthony Richardson. Never ever drafted him. And I told you, you shouldn't have drafted him this past season. He's just not that good, okay? Again, I told you the last one is going to shock you a little bit. Number 3 here is Tua, finished 21st amongst quarterbacks. I didn't draft him this year. I won't draft him again this year. He only played 11 games. Here's the thing, right? 19 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Again, 21st in fantasy points amongst quarterbacks. The reason I don't like him is that like the concussions, like I did a lot of MMA, right? And I've seen MMA fighters, once they get concussed, it's hard to come back to 100% normal, or you're kind of more prone to concussions. Again, I'm not a doctor or anything like that, but for example, Chuck Liddell, if you guys watch the old UFC days in the like late 2000s or whatever, Chuck Liddell was in his prime. Then he got this major knockout, and then his chin wasn't the same after, right? And it happens to a lot of fighters. Like after you get knocked out 1 or 2 times, you're not the same. Now he goes in, and I appreciate the heart, but he's going diving head first. Like, dude, chill out, man. Like you've been concussed multiple times on a high level where you're like, your body's cringing, and it's concerning. Like, every time I watch him, not only am I concerned for my fantasy team, I'm really concerned for his health. Like, this guy is going to end his career in a bad way. God forbid he does, but I hope he doesn't. Nothing happens. But he's just a risky play, man. And he has got the weapons. He had Tyreek this year. He had Waddle. He's got some good options. He couldn't do anything. Okay, so unacceptable to finish 21st. It's not a guy I can trust for fantasy football, okay? Number 4 here. Before I get to the last 2, head over to mybookie.ag. This is the site I use, the site I trust for all my not fantasy, for my bet needs, right? Because now we're into bets. We got the Super Bowl, we got the divisional games, we got all that playoffs. For your bet needs, mybookie.ag. Use code FFC. It's a 50% match deposit site I use, and it does really enhance the game watching experience, I'm telling you. And if you want my picks, join the Counselor's Edge below to get all my picks, winning picks. But I tell you, man, it's like, it makes the game a lot more fun. So mybookie.ag, FFC, go create an account right now, put down your deposit, okay? 50% match deposit. Remember that code, FFC, all right? All right, number 4 here, I'm never drafting him, although he did have a good finish, okay? And I want to go back and say that the next guy, the guy at the end, had a good finish too, because I keep hyping up this guy at the end that I'm never drafting again. But Kyler Murray finished 10th, is the 4th guy. Kyler Murray, all right, 21 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, actually finished the season. So I'll give him that. Finished 10th in fantasy points. I'll give him that. But Marvin Harrison Jr. was supposed to be a highly touted fantasy player. I even believed the upside would have been good for him, but he crapped the bed. Was targeted 116 times, 62 receptions. Really just not that good. 8 touchdowns, and finished 30th amongst wide receivers, did Marvin Harrison Jr. Kyler Murray should be feeding him. How can Kyler Murray only end up with 21 passing touchdowns? I mean, he did get 5 rushing touchdowns, and that's where, his fantasy numbers, it helped him. Finished 10th amongst quarterbacks in fantasy points, but I still don't trust this guy. And the last time he finished the season was in 2020. So he had this season now. He finished it. Congratulations, Kyler. You still aren't that good. You're just not that good of a quarterback, even though you're finishing seasons. But I don't know, man. There's something about Kyler I just don't like. He's just not a true QB1. He's just not the caliber. I don't feel that that's very big shoes to fill, but I don't get that Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson feel from him. I get this 1B, 1C type quarterback feel from him. He's just not that good. I hate to break it to you if you're an Arizona fan. I don't think he's not the solution. He's not going to get Arizona to the promised land. And there's a ton of quarterbacks that aren't. Like Tua's just not going to do it. The guys I'm mentioning here aren't going to do it, right? Anthony Richardson, not going to do it. Jordan Love, not going to do it, right? maybe if you get Jordan Love some receivers and he starts growing into his role, but he's been in the NFL a long time. It's like he's been, he was mentored under Aaron Rodgers. I don't know whether that's a good thing or bad thing, depending on which Aaron Rodgers you're kind of thinking about. Maybe years ago, Aaron Rodgers was good, but not anymore. So again, Kyler just not a guy I trust. The last guy is a guy I was a fan of, and he should have done better, but he didn't. And his playoff performance was absolutely despicable, is Justin Herbert. Now, again, I talked about this. He finished 11th, which is not bad in fantasy points. 23 touchdowns. I think he had, 3 interceptions on the season. But in the playoff game, going back to what we talked about, Jordan Love, 3 interceptions, 4 interceptions, 1 touchdown. He had that big touchdown pass to Ladd McConkey. 5.7 fantasy points, 40.9 passer rating in that game, 101 passer rating on the season. Again, finishing 11th in fantasy points. Why am I not drafting him? I'm a little turned off, right? Like, again, if you're a Chargers fan and you're watching this playoff game, this is your franchise quarterback, right? And when push comes to the shove, you're supposed to deliver. You don't just go in there and throw, 4 interceptions or whatever he threw. 4 interceptions, right? It's ridiculous. And you can make an excuse that, you don't have receivers. I think McConkey's a really good receiver. Quentin Johnson definitely needs some work. Could he have an ace receiver? Sure, yeah, he could. They need a better receiver, maybe swap out Johnson for a true wide receiver 1 or something, but it's just inexcusable, man, to throw 4 interceptions when it matters the most. He's a fake. He's a phony. He's just not that good. And frankly, I don't trust him for fantasy because a couple of years ago, he looked really good. He just has not lived up to that, that hype or that, the way that he performed, initially. I think it was his rookie year or second year, whatever it was. I think it was rookie year. He just hasn't lived up to it again. So Justin Herbert's a guy I'm never drafting again. These guys should all work at McDonald's, okay? And honestly, if I'm a team, I'm wiping the slate clean. Anthony Richardson, no chance he's going to be my starter. Jordan Love, I'd be looking elsewhere. Justin Herbert, he's just not the true deal. Kyler's just not going to get it done. And Tua, man, he's just one slide away from ending it catastrophically, God forbid, all right? So let me know what you guys think below. Are you drafting any of these guys? And literally, you have to, at this point, get one of these top guys, anchor your team with an ace, and take a chance on a rookie like Jane Daniels was a great guy as a backup this year that became the one, right? That's what I've always done. The year that Pat Mahomes broke out, I had Pat Mahomes as the backup to my quarterback. I can't remember who my starter was that year, but you always want to anchor your team with that ace that's consistent, and you want to invest maybe a higher draft capital in him. Let the sheep draft the cookie cutter rankings, and then you get your ace quarterback in the earlier rounds because he's always going to be a staple anchor on your team, and then you get a backup quarterback later that's got some upside. That's all I have for you guys. I got to go pick up my kids. Let me know what you guys think. Drop a comment below. Which is the quarterback you're avoiding? Do you agree with me on this, or do you guys giving these guys another chance, okay? Smash it, tap it, slap it, get my picks below. Hit the thumbs up, drop a comment, and content coming to you daily if I can. I'm out.